For today's video, we're going to do a buyer's guide on 126s, like the ones behind us. There's 280 SE, 420 SE, 380 SE, and well, it's not about rust. We have done a buyer's guide on that before. I'll share a link at the end of this video to that video. It's more about what Bella and I look for personally when we go out and buy one of these cars. I'm Kieran from Old Burkow, doing spares for older Mercedeses.
And I'm Bella from Benz, and my website is bumpy.com.
We're going to be starting with Bella, what Bella looks for when she goes out and buys one of these cars. Bella, over to you.
Okay, this is one that I just bought a few days ago. So the main things I do look for, well, of course it's rust. I don't want to buy one that's very rusted. And the interiors on these are usually quite bad. So I want the interior to be good, not terrible, with torn seats, because it's very hard to find replacements. So this one, it's not bad. The dashboard's a bit cracked and these door cards, but those are easy things to sort.
Yeah, it's an easy fix. I mean, that's something that we do.
Yeah.
So
I'll be doing those. And I'm glad these seats aren't torn.
the seats are actually in really nice condition.
They are.
And this Bell is a very unique car.
Yeah.
I'm led to believe that it's it's one of the ones of the PE City Council.
Yeah. And it's very nice in black.
Very nice and black.
Yeah.
And you do, of course, you're busy having the hubcaps refurbished at the moment. That's why it isn't
Yeah.
on this car. But it does have the original 280 SE style hubcaps.
Yeah.
And it's which year is it?
It's 87.
87. Okay,
280
so
SE, yeah.
just registered at the beginning of 87.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Let's carry on.
So also another thing you can look at is like these rubbers. They can also be torn or cracked. Rust would usually be maybe on the bottom of the doors or underneath or by the bonnet hinges. Good to check there. And I also like them to run properly, because some of them can be quite hard to fix if they're not running properly, especially the V8 ones.
Yeah, I mean you can spend a lot of money, and parts are a little bit harder to find.
Yeah, they
Ignition
are.
control modules and idle control valves and stuff like that on those are a bit trickier. This particular one's the M110 280 SE,
Yeah.
so pretty much the same engine that was in the 116 and the 123 280E, 116 280 and 280 or 280S and 280 SE, and this one's got 114 as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's they're
Open.
bulletproof motors, these double overhead cam M110s. And though it's like, well, certainly in South Africa, it was the smallest engine capacity we got on these 126s. They run great, you know, there's no issue. When we were test driving this one, I took Bella and I took it for a drive.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get it up to 150, it's no issue there really. And it pulls nicely.
It needs a bit of a clean in
Yeah,
here.
obviously you've just got it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, bulletproof engines, aircon compressor as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. The things you look for when you're buying one of these 126s.
Yeah. So I got this one because it does look very nice. The interior is fine. And it runs fine. So it's just some small cosmetic things we need to do on it.
Okay,
For
so what are
size.
no-nos to you in terms of price? Okay, firstly, things you would make you seriously consider not buying it.
I don't really even look at ones with bad seats and bad interiors, because it's just too hard to fix really. So if the seats are all ripped, I don't want it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And if it's not running right.
Okay.
And paperwork must be in order, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, on the later ones, the self-leveling suspension can fail, but that's not such a big deal because you can convert it to the normal.
Sure.
But it's another thing to check if you're paying a very high price for one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the headlights, tail lights, check if they're cracked or still good. And make sure it's got the original rims if it's at a higher price, or hubcaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The nice extras are the rubber mats. Some maybe have mud flaps. None of these have though. And another thing to check is that wood trim. They're usually pretty bad. That one's okay. And the radios,
Yeah, that it's got a Becker.
Yeah. And check that the aircon works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of things.
Okay.
And for the higher priced ones, these door handles should also be right. In a lot of them, they fall down.
Yeah, they collapse.
Yeah, these things. So that
yeah.
one's right. I need
That
to
one
fix
isn't.
that one.
Yeah. So have a look at that. So if we go around to that side, and it's quite a common issue with 126s specifically.
Yeah.
Let's open up that door and I'll show you what I mean there, or what Bella's talking about. That.
It's fallen down a bit.
Yeah.
But we'll be changing that.
Yeah, it's something we do have in stock at Old Mercar, so we can certainly help with that sort of stuff as well.
And things like the doors. So this one I need to change the latch for it because it doesn't close so nicely at the moment. You have to give it a bit of a slam.
So once again, it's this sort of thing. These little rubbers inside here, which we do have in stock or getting back into stock to replace that.
Yeah.
That little rubber. That's the cause of that, as opposed to. Let's have a look on this one where the rubber's okay. That. Okay, so that's basically the difference there.
But it is fixable, so it's not
Yeah,
such
easy
a big
fix.
deal. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I think that's about it, really.
from your point of view. Okay,
Yeah.
let me give you my
Okay, so
opinion.
from my point of view, when I'm looking at a 126, obviously everything is based on price. And if you're going to be paying at the upper regions of what they're going for these days, the thing better be perfect. But at an average price, and an average price is this sort of car here, I guess. Let's have a look at the sort of things that would be important to me. One of the first things I have a look at is the reverse lights, the clarity of that. So if you have a look at that, that's still very, very clear. And I like the look of that. They've probably been replaced on this car, but they've been replaced with the original ones, and that's absolutely fine. But very often what they look like is this. That's far more common. And to me, that just affects the value. So you can see that's a little bit frosted over there. Yeah, it's one of the things that does bother me personally. The next thing I look at are these little strips of aluminium on the grille. There's always going to be a degree of sandblasting on it because they're obviously exposed to all the grit and stuff coming off the road. But that's really nice for me. That's great. I look at the tow hitch cover. This over here. They're often missing. The earlier ones, funny enough, they didn't seem to fall off, and we've got 3 or 4 in stock. The later ones, they fall off, and we've got none in stock. So that the later ones, important that it's there. And then originality as well. So Bella's 280 SE, there's a Generation 1 w126. It's a 280 SE that here in South Africa was launched in 8081. And produced through until 86. Hers was registered in January 87, so it would have been an 86 model. They had 14-inch rims and different hubcaps to this. The Generation 2 one like mine here, which is a 420 SE, has the 15-inch wheels. And across the range of Generation 2 W126s in South Africa, that these hubcaps are standard. And of course the alloys were optional to those who wanted it. I personally like the look of the hubcaps, so I'm leaving it like that. But I digress. Let's carry on. For me, very important. The doors close nicely. Very important to me. Very important, the odometer works. A common failing in these cars, because they have very soft gears that run the odometer, is that the odometer no longer counts. Look, it is repairable. There's a chap in Cape Town that we'll happily share the details of that can repair that. But that's a very common problem. So when I'm buying one, that's one thing I do want to see, particularly if I'm buying it because of the mileage. Because if that's not working, well, you know, the mileage is in question as well. Having a look while we're inside here, you know, I like the way the door cards, you know, the wood trim on the door cards, that this isn't cracked on top here, that this isn't damaged, that these are still intact over here. Wood trim, very, very tricky in these, and as in all older Mercedes sold in South Africa, it's very rare that they're uncracked. Even this one of mine, though it isn't cracked, you can see that the lacquer on it, the clear coat, has actually started separating there. So it's something in the fullness of time I might want to do. Then carrying on with the inside of the car, getting on, obviously you want to see how it starts, you want to make sure that there's no warning lights. You want to make sure the function of the heater is good, the aircon switch is on. You want to check obviously the function of all the electric windows, quite a common issue. Just make sure they're all open and close smoothly like that. If it's got a sunroof like this one, you want to, let me just put on the ignition here. You want to make sure that it slides smoothly as well. Because very often, when these cars go for a respray, there's very, very few body shops that can get this rubber back in as it's supposed to be. So it talks to me about, you know, rust repairs around here. It is a common place for these cars to rust if you look at our rust tutorial. And the fact that the rubber is still properly seated here speaks to this not having been painted or fiddled with. Because the problem is, if it isn't, okay, and you try and close the sunroof, it doesn't close like this. It'll get stuck here and it won't go up at the back. So you want to see it being able to close properly like this, and you want to see it, certainly on the Generation 2 ones, tilt. The Generation 1 ones like the 380 SE or the 280 SE didn't have the tilt function or just the slide function, but you want to see that working as well. Very, very important. So to me, one of the first things I look at is that. So you want to see that the central locking works. Central locking is less of an issue on 126s than there are on the 123s. The 123s use a vacuum-only system that works off engine manifold vacuum and is very susceptible to leaks in the whole system. So there'll be one under the seat or one of the little actuators of the door leaks, and then nothing works. With these, it's got an electric pump on the boot like the 124, and they generally work. We don't sell a lot of those. They do fail from time to time, not particularly expensive. Look at about 600-700 rand for a replacement pump. So yeah, check when you go and have a look at the car. Check electric windows. Check sunroof if it's got. Check aircon. Check heater. Check odometer. Very, very important. Check that it closes nicely. Check lines. Okay. So stand next to the car and have a look down, and you'll quickly see if there's been a repair along here. He's not aligned properly or a ripple in the paintwork or something like that. Very, very important to do that. Look at that tow hitch cover. Look at the originality of the hubcaps. Look at the wear on the tires and also the age of the tires. So have a look for abnormal wear on the outside rather than the inside. Check the age, and if you have a look at the tire, you can actually see there's always a date on the tire, date of manufacture. And if the tire is older than 5 years old, it really should be replaced. These are 8 years old, so though the tread's still very good, that you need to replace. Now I'll get round to doing it. So easy to do. You can just check. There's a little place here where it gives you the week. I don't have my glasses with me, so I can't see, but there's a little on every tire. Certainly in South Africa, you'll see a 4-digit number, which will be 4218. Okay, so it would be the 42nd week in 2018 that tire was produced. So have a look at that. Not older than 5 years. Have a look at color differences, which would speak to things being painted. I know this car, I had it back in 2016, and when I sold it, it had a 420 SE badge and it had a tow hook. It doesn't have a 420 SE badge anymore, it doesn't have a tow hook, so it's a good chance that this has been sprayed at the back, which is not a biggie to me because the color matching is quite good, but there is a very, very slight difference if you have a look at it. Obviously rust is covered in the rust tutorial, but this is starting over here, so have a look at that. You know, it's probably worth getting that sorted out, and I will. In the fullness of time. Don't ask why I've got a chainsaw in the boot. But I do, yeah. Let's have a look. What else? Things like stars are freely available. You can get them still from Mercedes. A lot of them have got the star missing. They're not expensive. Mercedes sell them for under 1,000 rand. They're the same as a 124 and even a 123 want to work on there. Pop open the bonnet, which is over here. We'll do a video on the difference between the Generation 1 and Generation 2 w126s. We'll do a separate video on that. But basically what you want to see here is this. You know, it's nice and clean. It hasn't been, you know, there's no sign of any bodywork here in the front. You don't want it spotless, because spotless means that it's been prepared for sale, okay, by whoever's selling it. You want to see it like this, where there's a little bit of dirt inside here. It hasn't been cleaned recently, but there's no obvious oil, or there's no obvious problem like that. Very nice that this is intact as well. You know, have a look, and if it's got that, that just adds to the value, particularly in this sort of condition. Always pull the oil out and just confirm that that isn't milky and that it's relatively clear like that over there. It's worth doing a gearbox oil check as well. So what you want to do here is just pull up this. Obviously you're not going to be able to check the level without it running. That's not what the purpose of this test is. But you want to be doing this and run it over your fingers. Just check that it's red and not brown. And give it a smell, and make sure it smells like ATF, not like some burnt caramel, okay? Because that would speak to the gearbox overheating, clutches in it getting burnt and stuff like that. So that's really what you want to look here. This car, when I got it, did have a power steering leak on this pipe over here. I've subsequently replaced the pipe. But yeah, so you know, check that none of these things are leaking. It's probably worth opening up this as well. I'm not going to do it now, I don't have a 13 spanner with me, but it's probably worth checking that as well, and just checking the level. That's your power steering reservoir. This car did have self-leveling suspension that's been bypassed, like Bella was saying in her thing. This would be the reservoir here. You can see it's basically empty because it has been bypassed. I preferred bypassed because they are very, very difficult to get those. It is very, very difficult to get the self-leveling shocks when they leak. They're no longer available. A lot of Mercedes garages actually contact me looking for second-hand ones to get their clients back on the road. Gate. Okay, so we're carrying on that. We just, the gate to the old Mercar warehouse here where we're filming comes through on the same phone that we're filming on. So yeah, we had to just open up the gate for our courier to pick up the stuff. Anyway, getting back to that, it has been bypassed on here. So how that works is that we would, and we actually sell the kits here at Old Mercar. We take the kits out of an old 380 SE or 280 SE and put it in here. So you put in the standard shocks, and you put in the coils, because the coils are different as well. So it doesn't affect ride in any way at all. It still handles beautifully. It affects loadability if you're going to be loading it up, because that's the function of the self-leveling suspension. Obviously, the heavier you make it, it keeps the car level. So you lose that functionality. But I'm not running a taxi here, and I don't have a tow bar anymore. As the courier guy arrives, I don't have a tow bar anymore, so I'm not going to be towing a caravan or anything heavy with it. So it's absolutely fine like that. Looking around the back, one thing that I always look at as well, which is quite a defining thing for me. If you look through the window here, Bill, you see that fitment of the seat over here. You can see that the seat's never been taken off. It hasn't been sun damaged over here. Very often these will crack, particularly 126s, and these lift up here. I like seeing it like that.
And these speaker covers in the later models.
Yeah, these speaker covers are a bugger. They always crack, because the technique for taking those things off when the speaker blows is actually removing the whole back seat, removing the backboard, and then you can take these covers off. So a lot of car radio fitment places, if the speakers do go, they try and take it off and sit you, and you're going to crack it for sure. You cannot do it. As I think one of these are cracked.
That one is.
That one is, yeah, like that. So this isn't too bad. I can live with that until I get another speaker cover in stock. But I'll probably just leave it. The thing with this car that I've got here, I'm not going to fiddle with it. I'm going to leave it exactly like it is. And it's acceptable to me the way it is. You know, the seats are good. That's the other thing. And Bella touched on it as well. What's very, very important for me is the interior of the car. I don't want to see seats that are torn. I don't want to start fiddling with, and particularly the later ones, the SECs as well as the 500 and 560 obviously have electric seat controls. We get a lot of inquiries for those. The little knobs break or the little buttons fall off. Get a lot of inquiries, very hard to find. For me, simplicity is key. This particular car is also a V8 420 SE, but doesn't have the electric seats, and that's great. Overlays. I do use the car, so it hasn't been cleaned for this video, as you can see. But yeah, the overlay mats are absolutely great because they preserve the, well, should preserve it. I haven't glyphed, but they preserve the carpets. You know, they don't wear the carpets out. So this one needs a clean here. Open the cubby, check for books. You want to be seeing quite a comprehensive owner's manual, service book. This one even has some invoices as well as the original finance agreement when the guy bought it from Stanek back in 1988. That's also inside here. It's really great. When it comes to dashes, this one is cracked over there, and there's a crack on that side. We do remanufacture them, but you know, it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to be changing the dash on it, so I'm just going to live with that. I'm happy with that. The other thing that's very important on them, get inside and sit on the seat, because these, like 123s, the seat bases collapse. The springs on the base breaks, particularly if you're a bit of a larger person, you get in and out all the time. So in this one over here, that side's absolutely fine. This one here is a little bit low on the left, which would mean that the springs inside the base has actually broken. We do sell bases here at Old Merc Guy, and we will be replacing the base on that one in time. I'll get right to doing that. Electric aerial here again, very common problem. This one's also broken. Bellows 280 SE actually works. This one's broken, so that should be replaced as well. And I'll probably get round to doing it. I don't listen to the radio. I've got a Bluetooth that I listen to. So yeah. Let's see what else. Windscreens are still available, so not a huge stress there. Taking it for a drive. Okay. When you fire it up, make sure the oil pressure goes straight up as it should. Make sure it's got a nice steady idle, particularly the V8s. They've got a big issue with, not a big issue. These cars are 40 years old, so it's not a big issue, but you'll find that sometimes there's an uneven idle. It could be very high, it could be very uneven. Make sure it revs cleanly. If it does do that, get inside and hop in, Bells. I'll show you what we can do here. As I almost fall over here. Magically this side. And before we carry on with looking inside, one other thing I wanted to mention, jack point covers. Particularly on the facelift. Well, the pre-facelift doesn't have that. Just metal there, doesn't have this little panel underneath. These things are notoriously bad at getting lost, and they're difficult to find. So check that all 4 of those are in place. If one's missing, it stands out like a sore thumb. So just make sure they're all there. And I think that's pretty much what I look for on the outside. Obviously, look, just one last thing. There's things that are deal breakers, there's things that aren't that serious. So if you have a look at this bonnet here, some of the clear coat is busy breaking up over here. To me, that's not a big issue. It's not a pristine car. It's a car that I want to use, and it's a car that I do use since I've got it, and I'm going to be using it on an ongoing basis. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But it is a relatively, well, not a relatively easy fix. You would need to get the bonnet resprayed, and then there's always a color matching issue, particularly with metallics. I don't like doing single panels, because as soon as you do one panel, you're going to notice it straight away. So for me, the time I'll fix this is the same time I'll respray the whole car at one time. So at least the color matching is right. Anyway, let's get back inside, and we can carry on from there. So you want to see how those doors close. And the test here, maybe just close the door properly so we can, there we go. Okay, so the test here, the car is warm, so it takes a bit longer to start when warm. So you just hold it, boom, fires up. You want to see the oil pressure go up. It'd be nice to see the fuel gauge go up as well, but I need to fill that up. I must say, I've done I filled up at 200 k's, and now I've done 1,022, so that's 800 odd k's. That included a trip through from Platt on the freeway and then around town, so it's pretty good range. Well, this is a 90 litre tank, but to me it looks like 11-12 litres 100 k's, which would be fantastic, but that does include that open road trip. But anyway, what I wanted to say here is foot on the brake, move it to reverse, or sorry, that's neutral, reverse, 1, 2, boom. You want to feel it engage within 2 seconds. Okay, neutral, disengaged, drive, 1, 2, 3, there we go. Okay, so 2-3 seconds, it's fine. And then when you're pulling away, the biggest thing to check with the gearbox is you don't want it flaring. So you want to see it changing when it's supposed to change. We're not really going to get up to speed here in the old Mercar yard, but I mean, you pull away, it needs to take straight away. And when it changes, if you've got a light throttle, you want to see it changing as it should on a light throttle at 2,500 revs. And we'll do a road test on this car, and I'll speak about it then as well. But what you want to see is a difference between a light throttle and a heavy throttle. So if you put a heavier throttle, you want to see it hold the revs to 4,500 or 5,000 revs until it's ready to change, or until you lift off and it changes then. And also, if you do another test, when you're accelerating, accelerate like that and hold the revs to 4.5 and let it change, and make sure that change is nice and crisp. So not firm as in neck snappingly firm like that, but nice and crisp, and it doesn't flare. So in other words, the revs don't go up and the gearbox slips when it changes. That talks to a possible gearbox problem as well. So that's what you don't want to be seeing. As you can see there, oil pressure, so warm idle, and it is warm. I used this car to go home, it's almost at temperature. Warm idle, you're looking at 600 revs there. It shouldn't be higher than that. If you put it in neutral, it'll go up marginally. There we go, 650. That's the correct, in this V8, that's the correct idle speed. Put it in drive, it should maintain it, more or less the same. And you'll see the oil pressure there is about 2. As soon as you accelerate, it needs to go up to 3. Spinning the wheels there, but as soon as you accelerate, it needs to go up to 3. Check that this is working as well, the economy gauge. If it's at full max, it means there's a vacuum leak somewhere. So just make sure that it is responsive. So you can see as I touch the accelerator, see that's moving there. See, okay. Once again, check the function of the aircon, make sure that gets cold, check that the heater works, the radio. This is a very common thing as well. These often break, and they're getting quite hard to find. Check that this isn't cracked. The left mirror working here. The interior lights, obviously that needs to work here. I think this does work here, there, and somewhere here. I don't know, it does work when you open the door. Yeah, there we go. And that seatbelt warning. I don't know if these do. Yeah, these should work as well. So this is a facelift thing. I don't know if that one will. Yeah, it does. There we go. So you want to just check things like that. As I say, this isn't electric seats, but if it does have electric seats, check that all the functions of that work. This does have electrically adjustable steering, so check that certainly for reach, check that does work over there. There's a little button there. Odometer, let it idle for a bit, make sure that the temperature doesn't climb. These things have an 87-degree thermostat, so the temperature should always be between 80 and 100 on a very, very warm day. And I remember the day that I arrived back in PE with this car, it was 32 or something. Went out on the Saturday morning in heavy traffic with the aircon on, and it went to just over 100, and that's absolutely fine. And the other fan kicks in and it comes down again. But you don't want to see it much more than that. So that line just above there, 100, a little bit above it, if there's a reason, as in heavy traffic with aircon on an exceptionally hot day, that's acceptable. But if on a day like this where it's flipping cold and windy and you don't have the aircon on and the temperature starts going up, well, then there's an issue. You need to have a look at that. Let's see what else. Armrest, that's another thing. You want to see the armrest level like that. And that it functions nicely and stays in position if it goes up. It's a little button on the side you push down. These collapse, and then you'll see it sort of down here where my Bluetooth speaker is. I personally love the sheepskins. I always put them in my cars. But the nice thing, if a car's had a sheepskin its whole life, if you lift this sheepskin up, the leather underneath is still like new. So, mirror. Another common thing that snaps over here. I want to see that working. These cars as well, that vent is opened over by shifting this lever here. That opens that vent, this opens the center vent, and this opens the vent on this side. So put the fan on 1 as it is on now, and you want to be feeling when you open there, is the air coming out now?
I think
bottom.
so.
No, bottom.
Oh.
Now?
No.
Not, okay. So you want to check that, okay, if I close that there, it's not coming out. Now it's coming out. Okay, so same story here, not coming out, coming out. Oh, sorry, I'm accelerating while I'm talking here. That one, let's just turn it up. Yeah, it is coming out there. Okay, and is it closed? Coming out? No, it's not. Okay. These over here, window demisters, they really give problems. Check that this little lever isn't snapped here. That adjusts the outside mirror on the right hand side, quite a common thing because they're not often adjusted, so it gets very stiff inside there, and when somebody does try and adjust it, it breaks. Function of the wipers, just check that works properly. Obviously go through all the lights, make sure that goes well. That all switches on. Back seat, not much to check there. But once again, just check that the leather's nice and supple. And that's what I particularly liked about this car. You know, if you feel the leather's still nice and soft, if it isn't, the thing to do, you know, you can always get some lanolin or something like that and smear it in and try and just rejuvenate it a bit. It up. If you have any questions, or if you come across one of these cars you'd like to buy and you're looking for any advice, feel free to contact me and I'll give you my opinion. I'm sure Bella will as well. And if you're looking for one of these, always keep an eye on Bella's site, bellbenz.com. She sells some beautiful ones, and yeah, she's got some nice stock. What have you actually got coming up at the moment?
That black 126,
Yeah.
a 300D 123, and a 200 123.
Yeah, and just keep an eye on the site. There's a bunch of other cars advertised on there as well at the moment. Finney is still on there, 201, 124. So a few bits and pieces. Anyway, if you like these sort of videos, please give us a thumbs up and follow the channel. And if you have any other suggestions of what you'd like to see or what you'd like us to do, please let me know. For today's video, we're going to do a buyer's guide on w126s, like the ones behind us here. And